What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for episode 2 of building a UCS Acclamator in Lego. This week, I am going to be tackling the frame. I don't want to get too far along without having a frame. Honestly, I feel like that's probably the thing I probably should have started with, but I wanted to actually build something and start with something that I knew, and I felt like, the front and kind of the top panels would be the easiest thing to start with. So now that those are done and out of the way, I'm going to tackle like what the actual frame's going to look like, what's going to be holding all of these plates and panels. It should be pretty interesting. I do have a couple ideas of what I want to go off of. Lego has made 2 UCS Star Destroyers so far, and both of those have kind of similar large Technic frames, so I'm probably going to be using both of those for reference material as I create my own frame. But enough talk, it's time to get building. Alrighty, week 2 is going to be focusing on the frame. I've got all the plating and panels, or a lot of the top plating and panels, figured out, and what I now need to do is figure out how I'm going to shape them. And I'm going to do that with the frame, and I'm going to be taking some inspiration from my UCS Imperial Star Destroyer. You can see this is kind of like the basic frame that I've got figured out so far. And if we take a look at the inside of the UCS Star Destroyer and ignore the rainbow of filler brick, you can see they've got 1x2 plate set on its side, and that's what they did for the greebling. And I like that. I feel like that was pretty effective while keeping it pretty light and allowed you to kind of keep this side part pretty simple. So I'm going to be using that. And then I came up with my own custom connection piece right here. This was tough right here because I needed to figure out something that would make sure, both of these angles mirrored each other, and one wasn't super far that way and one wasn't super steep. But I was able to get that figured out, and they hold pretty well. It's all pretty even. Honestly, I was surprised that I was able to figure that out pretty quickly. Pretty pleased. I am going to be doing something different than the UCS Star Destroyer for like the main frame. You can see they used a lot of Technic. I want to use as little Technic as possible and go with plate and brick, because this will allow me to more easily put an interior. Because now you can see I've basically split this inside into six sections. So this could be a computer room, barracks, command chamber, anything like that. And it'll be much easier to build off of the existing frame because it's plate and brick instead of Technic. So that's one reason why I decided to go with that. It's also green because of Naboo. Pretty much all of the filler brick I use for my projects is green. So the way I figured out what this angle needed to be was pretty simple. What I did was take the existing pieces for the Acclamator, and then I just hooked them on here, kind of where they would be roughly, like so. And then I looked down the side to check and see what the angle looked like, because I want the top plates to stick over the top a little bit, kind of like that. I don't want it to be flush because I'm going to have greebling and stuff along this, so it's going to stick out even further. So that's why there's a little bit of an overhang right there, and I feel like that's a pretty nice angle. It actually matches the angle of the plate pretty well, so pretty pleased with that. I think what I'm going to be tackling next is now this front section, because this front section is basically going to be like a big slide that these 2 plates right here are going to rest on, as well as this top piece. So that's going to start up there and then go down here. And then of course, I need to figure out how to connect this piece to those back sections. So I'm going to tackle all of that next. And when I have more to update you guys with, I'll check back in. Here's a good look at the finished frame. I got that slide piece I was talking about earlier. This is going at an angle down here, and this middle dark red bar is going to rest along that and slowly slope down to the front. I did have to make some major modifications to the frame. You remember initially I was using this design, this kind of custom design I came up with. Turns out it did not work well, and I think it was just because this connection right here wasn't flush to the brick. You can see that little middle area creates a little bit of a gap between this piece and the brick. And I think because of that little piece, because of that little space, it was causing the different sections to not line up correctly. Because if you think about it, Lego, you build either 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, whatever, a certain amount of spaces at a time. You can't really build with less than 1 space and have things line up evenly. So I'm thinking that's what happened there. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I actually referenced a throwback build with this current design. So there were 2 options I was thinking of when I was going to be building this frame. There was the first option that I was showing you with the new UCS Star Destroyer with kind of like the Technic frame and kind of a system similar to this. There is an older system as well, and that belongs to the original UCS Star Destroyer. And I had actually bought and built that old UCS Star Destroyer back a while before the new one came out. So I kind of had a little bit of the frame and design in my head still. And I decided to pull up those instructions to see if I couldn't try out that old design. So this is what they used in the original UCS Star Destroyer. It was a lot of these Technic beams, as well as these hinge pieces. I think one reason they went away from this model and went with Technic is because Technic is a lot lighter and a lot stronger. But I was like, you know what? I might as well give these little hinge pieces a shot. They worked on the UCS Star Destroyer. Maybe they'll work for my build. And I'm very pleased to report they worked just fine. There was a slight problem for me because the old UCS Star Destroyer uses these pieces and then connects the greebling to the side here. And so I still was going with the 2x brick on their side. So I had to figure out a way to connect the hinge brick to the piece on its side, and I ended up going with one of these bracket pieces. It works perfectly. The hinge connects into this side, and then this just sticks into that 2x4, which is connected to the 2x plate. So I'm very happy with this. I got to use a little bit of a throwback design, and I also still got to put my own creative spin on things. You know, I was still able to come up with my own custom variation or modification, if you will, to complete the job. So I'm going to get more of this put together, and then I'll get the panels on there and show you guys what it all looks like with everything on. I am really in the thick of things now. You can see I've got both side plates on here and the front plate as well. So this is your guys' real first look at what the shape is going to look like. I've got these panels at probably what is the perfect amount of hangover. You can see they hang over just a little bit. As you get further back here, it starts to get a little bit more flush with the plate because I use two different kinds of wedge plates. So it's kind of unavoidable. I don't know. I don't think it's big enough. I don't think it's a big enough problem to warrant like doing any kind of adjusting there. I think it's close enough that you won't really be able to notice, especially once all the greebling's in. I do like the angle of these side plates. However, I think this middle plate is up too high. I feel like the front of the ship's too tall, so I'm thinking about lowering that back end down, which will make this slope and this slope a little bit more shallow. And I think that might help it not look so tall because I feel like the Acclamator is shorter than like the Venator and the Star Destroyer. Another thing I don't like are the giant gaps between this middle. I'm still not 100% sure how I'm going to remedy that. If I take off one of the panels, you can see what it is I'm using. It's just one of these hinge pieces right here connected to one of those plate pieces that bends at an angle like that. It creates too much of a gap, so I honestly think I'm going to have to find something else to connect the side plate to the top, which is kind of frustrating because I had hoped that would work, but that's just the way it goes when you're mock building, so it's back to the drawing board for that. All things considered, progress is steadily moving forward, and I think that's everything I have to update you guys with. So once I get this lowered down a little bit and maybe find a new connecting system for these side panels, I'll check back in with more to update. All right, I've had a major change of plans. I know I said I was going to start tackling this back area, but as I've been picking this up and moving it around, I've realized the frame is really weak and really flimsy, and there are a couple other design flaws that are not ideal. They're not super noticeable, but they're not things that I want to have on this ship. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of postpone moving forward with progress and spend this next week kind of shoring up and perfecting what I've already built, because I don't want to get to the end of the build and look back and be like, you know what, I'm not really happy with this section or how this frame was, or have problems here and there. I want to, slow down a little bit and take my time, because, if you build something quickly, chances are you're going to find good techniques and the build's going to look good, but I want to take my time and find the best techniques and make sure this build looks the best possible. So I'm going to give you guys a final look at the Acclamator for this week. You can see I've got the back panel set up, both front panels on. The shape's coming together very nicely. I'm very happy with that. Honestly, a lot of the changes are not going to be visible. They're kind of like, structural things on the inside, but I think that'll go a long way to making this thing much more durable and able to withstand the tests of time much better. So that being said, time to hit the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed week 2. Things are definitely getting a lot more challenging, as you saw with the whole frame. I really had to slow things down and really had to kind of like analyze what exactly I was doing, because I don't want to rush through this project and have a mediocre result at the end. You know what I mean? I don't have a set deadline for this, so there's no reason for me to be rushing as quick as I am. So I think it's important for me to kind of take a step back, reevaluate where I want to be progress-wise right now, and kind of focusing on making sure I'm putting the best product forward possible. So I look forward to next week and kind of shoring up what I've already done. I feel like I'm going to be kind of maybe backtracking a little bit and reinforcing, maybe adjusting what I've already done. And then when it's to my liking, I'll start moving forward again. So stay tuned for next week. I've got more exciting stuff to come. And remember, if you like the video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And as always, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. But until next time, happy building.